Welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's session. Today, we'll be talking about the features related to the most recent versions of Stratum from 7 going around from 7.2 to 7.5, basically. So we'll be talking about that today. We got the new fourth quarter schedule out today or last week. And so as you can see, we've got some classes in the on the near horizon as well. So we'll review those at the end of the session. But that's today's session, 7.2 to 7.5. We'll be looking at some of these features that are available within these releases. And what I really wanted to concentrate on was the what's new document for the latest release. So we have a what's new doc, and this is available on our customer net site, and I can email it to you as well if you'd like. But this will go over the latest version of Stratum, which is 7.5, and some of those features that are available. And then on the last page, it'll actually go through some prior releases. So it kind of goes through the the most current version, and then it goes to prior versions, and it kind of highlights the different major features that are available within each one of those releases. So actually this goes all the way back to 7.1.2. So that was a major release, as you can see. That release has incorporated the Stratum Powerbi Connector, which allows you to connect your Power BI interface to the Stratum interface and connect to views to bring data into your Power BI reports. So that was a major feature. Dashboards were then introduced also so that you can build your own dashboards within Stratum. We introduced an ETL tool called Stratum Link, and it's web-based that allows you to move data from other database systems into Stratum. We also introduced the data import feature. It allows you to bring data into Stratum using Excel. So big release, right? And obviously some other features as well that just made the product better, more efficient, easier to use. So if we take a look at some of these features, the Power BI Connector, first of all, allows you to use the Power BI interface. As you can see, I'm in Power BI right now. And allows me to get connected to Stratum. So if I go to my Get Data button within the Power BI interface, I can see that if I go to the More option, if I have the Stratum add-in loaded, I can go to that and select my Solvon Stratum views. Here, that allows me to connect to Stratum if I get the URL that I want to connect to. So that just comes from the Stratum interface within your browser. If you copy and paste that in, it'll allow you to connect to the Stratum interface. So now it's connecting, and it will present all the views that are available within Stratum that I can select. So if I wanted to, for instance, select an actual sales view, I can make that selection. It'll show me a preview of the data within that view, and then I can then go ahead and import that view into my Power BI interface. So now that's being loaded in as a selectable data set, and now it's become available. So now I've got the data set available. That's actually a view that I imported in, and I can see all the different fields, different columns that I had within that view are now available for putting that into a Stratum or a Power BI report that you could see here that I've already built. So, as you can see, you can import multiple views into the Power BI interface. And of course, you're going to want to do that because some of the, one view is just not going to give you the entire story of your analytical business. So you're definitely going to want to import more than one view. And within Power BI, you can do a lot of other things from the data once you get it into Power BI. Another cool thing that we have available is the drill through button for drilling to Stratum with more detail. So if I make a selection, for instance, on a sales rep called Patrick Hurley, we could see that, his numbers change versus Nicole. If I select Nicole, her numbers are not as large as Patrick. So we can see that although she is selling well this year, she did struggle based on this. She's struggling this year versus last. She did a lot better last year based on the rolling 3-month scenario there. So great. So, I have some data there. That's tells me a story, but it only tells me so much. And so if I can drill to more detail, such as, for Patrick, if I can click on the drill through button that I have available, and that's what allows you to drill into further detail for Patrick Hurley. So now it actually passes Patrick's sales ID into the view filter, and it just shows me Patrick's numbers at this point. And then certainly I can then drill into further detail at this point. And now I've got a lot more detail that Power BI, this would be difficult to get into Power BI, this type of detail. And the view is giving me different time ranges of Patrick's overall performance. And we can see that this year versus last rolling scenarios, this year versus last monthly, this year versus last year to date. I mean, he's doing really good growth. We can see overall that there's only a couple areas where he's not growing, but if I drill back up to brand, I can see overall that he's year to date he's doing really really well. So now, so that's Patrick's story. And then if we were to drill in on a different rep, and if I could just move this, good Lord. Okay, so that's basically Patrick, right? And then Nicole, if I highlight Nicole and make the same drill to Stratum detail button, and that's a configurable button that allows you to, again, configure which view that you're going to send the user to. So now Nicole is passed at this point, and then Nicole's filter, and we can see Nicole's, is down this year versus last pretty badly. And then I could certainly do further drill downs into perhaps customer sold to, and I can see areas that where she's up, areas where she's down, by account. And again, this type of detail is probably not going to look well in the Power BI interface. So that's the connector for the Power BI interface, and that was introduced, as you can see, way back in 7.1.2. Dashboarding was also introduced as well, so we can see that if we want to use dashboarding within Stratum, you can create graphics such as this, and we have gauges as well, line graphs, of course, pie charts, different donut charts, bar, different types of bar charts, etc. So these are available as part of that release, and this graphing capability is actually enhanced so that it's more up to date. And each one of these is based on a view. So if I want to drill to that particular view, I can actually click in on the widget within that particular dashboard, and I can open the view behind that dashboard and do some further analysis on the view itself. So here's the view behind that particular visual, and if I wanted to do additional drill downs, etc., then I can take the necessary steps to do that. There was a designer also. So if you go into manage things, there's actually a separate dashboards designer available that allows you to create these different types of dashboards using Stratum views. So here's that dashboard that I'm using right now. Each one of these, as you can see, is built using a view, essentially, and then I can configure the graph within the designer. A data import, so also was introduced in that release. So that was a big release. As you can see, it's big, one of the larger releases in terms of features. The data import feature allows you to import data from an Excel spreadsheet. So perhaps you have a plan or a forecast or a budget, and you have that within an Excel spreadsheet, and now you want to upload that into Stratum for further analysis so you can compare that plan to your actuals. Well, you can actually do that if you use the data import feature within Stratum, It would allow me to import data into Stratum using a specific file that I have within Excel. So if like I said, I've got a sales plan file. And if I open that file within Excel, we can see that this file is basically a flat file, region, sold to, brand, product, and then I've got my plan by month, going across horizontally. It's what we call a time series file. So again, maybe this is something I now want to upload into Stratum and make that available for analytical purposes. How would I do that? Um, well, within Stratum, you can go into the analyst tools, and within the analyst tools, you'll see a data import feature there. If I select that, it takes me into the data import menu. I can then add a new data import job, select that Excel file we just looked at, open it, and Stratum will then ask me a few configuration options here. Do I want to add or replace the data? Well, if this is new, I'll just be adding the data in. I'll be adding it to my sales plan. So there'll be certain categories that are available for you to import the data into Stratum. What does that file look like? The file can be either a time series file or a transactional based file. Our file, like I said, was horizontal time series. We know that there's three header rows in the file, and a third header row there, it contains my date that looks like that format. So once you answer those questions, you can then go ahead and import the data. It'll show you a preview of it, and you can make further adjustments here if you needed to. But as you can see, everything got mapped accordingly. There are certain columns that we want to ignore, which is fine. But all in all, this is already ready to go and ready to upload into Stratum. Now, again, I've loaded this before, so it knew how to map the data. But if you want to map a column into the upload, you can always select dimension or just ignore it completely. And then for the measures over here, so if I were to select maybe if this wasn't region, it was something else. As you can see, I can select this, and it will map to another dimension. But obviously, this is a region, so we would want to keep that as region. But make further adjustments. Perhaps you add a new file or a new column to that, and you wanted to add a new level into Stratum. You could certainly do that. And then for my measures, maybe if I also have a cost, maybe that is a cost, then I can change these over to cost and import them into the cost measure instead of the plan amount. So you have some control, obviously, how the data gets imported into where. And then, once you kick that off, the job will run. It'll then send you an email, and then you'll be able to actually add that data into your views. So for instance, if I were to run a view, that job runs, I now have the plan loaded. I can now change a column here or add in a new column simply by adding in another regular measure. And now I can add in the plan that I just imported. So if I go to my sales plan, add in that plan amount by month, January through September, then I can do some sales versus plan, which is right there that I just added in, and see how, instead of comparing it to last year's data, how are we looking, versus plan. So now I've got multiple things that I can compare my performance to, instead of just comparing it to last year. I got another data point that I need to compare it to as well, that I was able to import in. Again, I could see this I should be able to see it by region, and of course there's my plan, which was only for the East region, by the way. So, and if I take that to product, then I can see, some of the products that we had a plan for. And it was just one product for that particular region, I suppose. Oh, I see. We're filtered on one particular brand. So, and I can go back and select another brand, or I can drill in on it like that. We can see that there was some plan, and we know that the plan only was for the East region. So now if I wanted to do the West region, I could certainly import another Excel file for the West region, and then, add that in as well. And that would just append in and complement the data that is already there, given that it's for a different region. That would mesh in nicely. Okay, so big, nice feature, great way to kind of let your analysts do this type of stuff, instead of always calling IT or whatever. Now they can just quickly set something up like this, and the users can just go, have at it and import the data as needed. So that obviously was a big release. So that wrapped up 7.12. In essence, in terms of some of the bigger releases. 7.12, and then 7.2 came out, and then they also added additional import features as well. So not only can you import a plan, but you can also now import some master file data. For instance, if you wanted to import a new way of looking at products that may not be as part of your item master, you can actually do that as well. You can import that data in, import a new attribute for a given product or a series of products, and then also it turns that into a dimension so that you can drill in on it, and you can also aggregate on it as well. So that was a big thing, and not only being able to import transactional type data, but also master file and attribute style data, which would be available as well. So if we were to take a look at that, what would that look like? Well, instead of just going into my data import under analyst tools, I now have a master data import option there as well. If I do an import on that, I can see that I do kind of the same thing here, and I select a separate file that has the things that, the different in this case, I'm doing a marketing program. And I want to mark these items with the marketing program that we're running. So completely custom, custom field here, custom attribute for each one of these products that we're running that marketing program for. So kind of the same concept here, right? We're importing data, we're mapping it to a dimension. This would be my products from that Excel file. This would be, we're ignoring the dimension. We're ignoring the dimension field. And then we're also then mapping in our attribute, which is a product marketing group code here for the program that we want to tag each product with that we're running for those particular products, right? We do have another marketing group code in that file, and we're ignoring it. So, again, you could have other columns within the file, and then you can ignore them once you want to import that in. So what would this look like once this, obviously you run this, it then imports the new attribute for these products. And then once you're ready to look at the data, then you can go in and you can then use the new aggregate dimension, in this case called product market group code. And now I can actually aggregate on those fields that I had within the Excel file. It's now a dimension that I can drill in on. And if I go to product, I can then see all the different products that was tagged for those given marketing codes. So we can see that these are the items for the 123ADK marketing program, and then we've got the 456 FCB marketing program, and these are the items that are included under that. If I wanted to just look at this at the product level, I can do that as well. I can just drag and drop product over, and then I can then add the attribute relationship to my view. So I can then go in and go to edit attribute relationship, and then go and find my product marketing group code, and there it is. That's my new attribute that I imported from Excel, and there they are as just an attribute field with it at the product level. So again, whether you look at it as the new virtual dimension that you just created, which comes with it, you'll decide as part of the import whether it's going to create a virtual dimension or not. You don't have to every time, but I certainly recommend it because that allows you to aggregate it this way, and then you could drill on it and drill in on it. So it's a great feature, actually, very powerful. So again, data import, whether you're importing a sales plan, forecast, budget, or if you want to introduce new attributes for products, customers, whatever would give you value for your analytical purpose, those are available now through the interface. So again, that's kind of goes through the features of up to 7.2. 7.3 then gets introduced, and there's new features there which make the different analyst hubs. You've got obviously new options for the Stratum dashboards, new graphing capabilities that we just saw. Those were upgraded. There's a new Excel add-in that was added here as well. So if we wanted to add in data directly into Excel using the Stratum connector, we could do that now just using Excel. So similarly to what we saw in Power BI, we can now just go use Excel and the Stratum add-in, and we can now just grab data and dump it down directly into Excel without having to copy and paste it or access the Stratum interface directly. Here I've got an example of a view that I've imported into my Excel spreadsheet. I grabbed it from my Stratum interface. When I go out to get Stratum data, it'll go out, connect to the Stratum interface. Again, it'll ask you for that URL. Once you define that or supply it, it then connects you to your views, as you can see here. And then I can add in, if I want to add in a new view, I can then just add in actual sales view, click on insert, and then it inserts the data from the view into my Excel spreadsheet. If I want this this will refresh automatically every time. So if I wanted this to refresh, run a refresh when you're opening the file, as you can see, I can deselect that, but certainly I like to see that selected so that next time I open the file, it'll just automatically go out and refresh the data from the views that you have within Stratum. In case your URL changes to Stratum, here's an area that you can make those updates as well. But that's the URL that it uses to connect and to allow you to dump the data down directly into Excel. Once I have the data in Excel, as you can see, I dump data down, and then from there, yeah, I mean, you can use pivot tables. If I get rid of the Stratum interface menu, I'm back to Excel. And then I can just, as you can see, I've built some pivot tables over the data that I downloaded from those views. Visuals are available, obviously, of course, graphics that Excel does so nicely. Now I can actually do that against my data within Stratum that I can just dump down directly. And again, tomorrow, next week, next month, I open up the file, it refreshes the data, this stays current. My year-to-date numbers obviously will change. This will all be dynamic if you build it properly. Okay, so that was a big add-in as well. Then 7.4 came out. Again, that was part of we enhanced the charting capabilities within the Stratum dashboards. We also integrated Microsoft as Identity and Azure Active Directory into our hosted offerings. So if you are looking to host your Stratum environment on the cloud, we do provide integration into your Azure Active Directory and your Microsoft Identity security program. And then we also did we added some additional features to our broadcast emailing capabilities so that administrators know, when they are finished running and they get the log file sent directly to them. So some nice things added. But then once you go to 7.5, which just got released this year, you can see that this goes all the way up to Windows Server, SQL Server to 2022. So if you're running SQL Server 2012, you're actually running on unsupported Microsoft product, and that's probably something you should think about, addressing. So with 7.5, there's this Stratum glossary that got introduced. That was a pretty big feature where um, you can now document your Stratum environment as needed and provide additional metadata so the users know what actual sales means. The user knows what the levels actually mean. And if they have any questions, they can actually click in on the informational icons and get more information from the Stratum glossary. In addition to that, we added KPIs so that you can create averaging or variances and min maxes very easily without incorporating complicated syntax. So if we were to take a look at that for the glossary, if I were to run a view and turn on my glossary, as you can see, it's this little more info button here on the right hand side. So once I turn that on, I get those informational icons in which then I can click in on, and I can say, for instance, actual sales. If I click in on actual sales, I can see that the glossary tells me that it reflects the value of sales bucketed by the invoice date. Typically, this measure includes return information, so sales net of returns. Okay, so this is basically net sales. And from that, I can glean that. Here, if I were to go into my product brand level, I can see that product brand is a way to group products or items with similar characteristics. This was derived from the item master file in the ERP. So again, this is just a demonstration, but you could, if you were an administrator, you can add more text to that. If you wanted to incorporate the table name of the ERP or what the item master name is, certainly you can freeform text, just type that in as needed and save it, right? But yeah, only certain people would have the ability to go in and add to the existing glossary and add additional detail. The glossary itself. So again, I've got different areas here. If I wanted to see what the calculation does, this obviously I've got verbiage. This calculation takes the difference of the month to day sales minus, it kind of gives the user, the business analyst, in more layman's terms, business terms, what this measure or what this calculation is actually doing. Yeah. So that's the Stratum glossary, and you can actually manage it at a global level. If you go directly into the Stratum glossary, you can see that it's got its own index. You can search for certain things that if you wanted to make updates to, you can search for them and then manage them within the Stratum glossary menu. And then finally is the KPIs. So if I wanted to, for instance, look at the KPIs for a given column of data, here I've got a rolling month. We can see July, August, September. It's a rolling 3-month scenario. So if I double click, or if I go to properties on that, if I right click on that column and I select properties, I can then go in and see that I've got a new option here under properties called display value as. And this allows me to change from the default, which is basically just showing the sum of sales, to basically these are the different KPIs that are available now. So for instance, if I wanted to see the min sales amount for those 3 months, I can then click and select the min sales amount for the months of July through September. And then by the different brands, I could see that these are the min amounts within that 3-month range. Conversely, if I wanted to select max, then it would show me the max amounts that it found from July through September. So you can do some really cool analysis on that. For instance, if I were to do that, um, what's my average sales for a given time frame, then I can, instead of comparing the current month versus the same month of last year, maybe I can just do an average of these 3 months and get a better feel for what my current month sales might be. So there's all kinds of, and you can do this with inventory. Of course, you can do it. And if I maybe wanted to look at what my average sales or my median, I could select that too. So this is my average sales for those 3 months. So it's a great fast way to incorporate basically these calculations, these KPIs. We call them KPIs, very easily, without having to incorporate any additional syntax or complicated calculation logic.